If you like the Daniel Blair Show, you will love Main Event Moto. Come join producer Joe and I at patreon.com/maineventmoto, where we talk Supercross, we talk Motocross, and deliver 3 long-form podcasts per week with no commercials. Again, that's patreon.com/maineventmoto, or you can click the link in the bio. Thanks for watching, and enjoy this week's episode of The Daniel Blair Show.
The Daniel Blair Show. Sponsored by Motosport.com, Mika Metals, Race Tech, ASV Inventions, and Guts Racing.
So many storylines heading into Hangtown, but there can only be 10 lead stories. And we start with number 10, Mitch Payton and the biggest roster at the opener. Nice! Now, I can make the case that it wasn't a great day for PC Kawi, with none of their riders finishing inside the top 5, but if you take into consideration that outside of Cameron McAdoo, the entire roster was on the gate, they're all healthy heading into Hangtown, and most of the roster did things that were somewhat impressive. You have to feel like the day was a win. In Moto 1, PC finished 6 through 10, which had semblance of the old days when the team would sweep the East-West shootouts, and although this was a different section of the leaderboard, there was a bunch of green on the leaderboard, which is a dramatically different start than last season, where they had one current team rider, Levi Kitchen, lineup, with a newcomer and fill-in named Ty Masterpool next to him in the truck. Garrett Marchbanks was by far the most impressive on the team. Shout out Drew Adams, I see you. And while Seth Hemaker and Ty Masterpool had moments that were intriguing, just moments, it was Levi Kitchen's 10 DNF that was individually devastating for a guy who hoped to make a title run. That, after one day, is over. But for Mitch and the crew, he came in with 5 guys, he left with 5 guys, and maybe that is the start of a positive trend for a team that has been beaten to crap for what seems now like forever. Inside the top 5 for the first time in his career was our 9th lead story in Juju Beaumer. He was not able to close down a potential podium on the day, but did have his best motocross showing of his career by far. Juju is known for his Supercross skills, and his breakout this past winter was massive for him, but to this point in his career, he hasn't been seen as or talked about for his outdoor skills. But the truth is, he was always fast as an amateur. He won Loretta's before, he got 9th at his first ever pro motocross at Bud's, and when you look back to his speed at the Combine a few years back, when he was unknown, shredding outdoors has never been an issue. The issue, and the perception, that he's just an indoor guy is due to the fact that he's ridiculously good at Supercross, which has tilted the scale. You will see more of this summer, and if his trajectory continues and he gets a little stronger in the last 10 minutes, the dude who nails his starts almost every moto will be living on the podium soon. Last year he did have multiple top 10 overalls to start the season, so expect a good month coming for number 23. And for the 8th lead story, Parker Ross, a top 10 at Hangtown would not surprise me. Parker's 12th in Moto 2 is a glimpse of what's to come for one of the most underrated dudes in the pits, who won't be considered underrated if he keeps doing this. He's actually been really good for years, but he grew up surrounded by 2 of the toughest amateur age classes in decades, classes that included Chance Hymas, Ryder DeFrancesco, Hayden Deegan, Dax Pennick, Juju Beaumer, and Casey Cochran, so he's been pretty overlooked. Parker is somewhat blooming late, and with Hangtown being his hometown race, don't be shocked if the privateer puts down a single-digit moto this weekend and a top 10 overall. Joe Shimoda is the 7th lead story heading into Hangtown, and after one good day at Paula, the hype is back for me. He challenged Haiden Deegan Moto 2, carved through the lead pack in Moto 1, and looked pretty calm and decisive doing it. The reason the hype and the expectations have simmered the last couple years is because since moving to Honda, where the expectations to take over the reins that the Lawrence brothers left behind, well, those expectations haven't been met, and he's looked pretty average. When your young teammate starts crushing it and the next generation starts to overtake you, again, while on factory Honda, it don't look good, and everyone's lost faith. He's finished 2nd and 3rd in this championship before, during the Lawrence brothers' reign of 250 terror, but still only has 3 total wins in his career, which is the same as Tom Vial and Levi Kitchen, who both have 3. But, and here's the big but, he's the only one out of any of these danger victims to actually fight back the last 2 years, and if you go back and watch Seattle, Joe Show wasn't on danger's pace that night, but oh, he had no problem getting physical multiple times, which gives me hope that maybe the nicest guy on the track can open up his mean side and make this thing interesting. It was only round one. I'm not gonna overreact and get too excited, but peak Joe Shimoda is really good. And I ain't trying to watch Hayden go 22-0, which I honestly don't think will happen. But I can see Hayden Deegan, our 6th lead story, going 11-0 this summer, which would still be pretty ridiculous. Of course, it is 250 racing. Things get wild in that class, and the Deegs isn't an incredible starter, but I just don't see him getting beat for 70 minutes in a day. One moto, yes, circumstances or a tip over can happen, but for a guy who seems to somewhat play around with his food for 15 minutes, then drop the hammer, I can't imagine someone having enough to beat him twice in a day. He was dominant. That was beyond impressive. And even though the day started off a little embarrassing in qualifying with his preemptive podium interview for fastest qualifier, he got the last laugh, which is becoming the norm. Hayden is hardly breathing when he pulls off the track. He's an absolute animal when it comes to fitness, and I just don't see anyone beating him without him screwing up. Like him or not, I will say, at least he makes it fun to watch, unlike Jett, who hole shots almost every damn moto and puts me to sleep at least half the time. Chase Sexton's title defense is over, and this week's lead story number 5 is an absolute bummer. To think that dirt in the goggles on the opening lap would ruin the potential championship battle between Chase, Jett, and Eli makes me want to poke my own eyes out. In hindsight, he should have pulled in a lap earlier, lost 6 to 8 spots, and caught back up to 5th and taken the L. The issue with Chase is that he's not wired that way. He's stubbornly strong and one-dimensional at times, and just like the Arlington Supercross, which cost him the title, he doesn't always see the bigger picture and instead gets caught up in the moment. Losing 10 points to Jett is not as bad as losing 50, and now it's over. The talk is that he hit neutral, which is weird because he wasn't going from second to first gear, but I ain't gonna argue, and either way, he was distracted, confused in the moment, and in normal circumstances with goggles on, that doesn't happen. Chase is tougher than nails, and physically I'll bet he's fine and will tough it out, but emotionally, I bet he's destroyed, and I don't blame him. Taking a number 1 plate feels good. Giving up the number 1 plate feels bad. But in reality, the last time someone defended their championship in 450 racing was Eli Tomac in Motocross 2019 and Ryan Dungey in Supercross 2017. That's 6 years outdoor and 8 years indoor, so don't worry about it, Chase. Nobody else can do it either. And I don't think anybody can pull off what RJ can either. And our lead story number 4 is RJ Hampshire, who had one of the most impressive rides on Saturday. I'm not too worried about Moto 2 and the overall. This psycho had surgery, 2 weeks ago, then went out and put up a boss Moto 1 ride in his 450 motocross debut. Now, this wasn't his first 450 race. That would be Daytona, where he beat 3 Supercross champs in his first ever big bike heat race. But he battled the big dogs at Paula Moto 1 and gave us a glimpse of what he can do on a 450. He couldn't do it both motos, but who cares? His expectations are pretty low this summer, and I doubt with that wrist issue, he has had much time to prep for summer racing. But in my opinion, his ride Moto 1 completely validates his spot as a factory 450 rider. Nice work, Rick James. And nice work, Jorge Prado, our 3rd lead story, and this is a message to all the fans who are shocked right now by his lackluster day. Don't be. I warned you. This is summer school for the 2-time MX1 world champ who is getting a crash course in American Moto, and big picture, it's totally okay. It was his first time at this track, first national on this bike, freshly returning from injury, and he's not the type to twist the risk and risk it. His success in the GPs has always come from being smart and crafty. And like I mentioned last week, this summer is all about laying the foundation for the future. He's not on a 1-year deal. He's not trying out. He's building and actually rebuilding himself for a future run. He didn't get where he is by sending, and I'd expect a 5 to 10% improvement every week. And by the end of the summer, I'll bet we all say, okay, I get it. We're good, and Paula 2026 is more likely the day we see him go all in. Lead story number 2 is all about that flashback with Jett Lawrence, Justin Cooper, and Hunter Lawrence going 1, 2, 3 in Moto 1 of the 450s, which is something we've seen before, many times, just not on the big bike. If you look back to 2022, it was Justin Cooper taking on the brothers every week, and he almost had both of them. J. Coop is beyond underrated, but we're at the point now where everyone gets it, and although everyone is starting to buy in on this dude, Moto 1 was still kind of shocking. He not only finished second, he kept Jett honest, but in my opinion, he used it all up Moto 1 and drained the tank. Even though Moto 2 was flat and he didn't finish on the podium, it was worth it. The gate was the deepest at the top we've seen in years, maybe a decade, and the guy beat every human on the gate and got one on Hunter, who has always had a little more than him through the years. The lead story, of course, is the alien who nailed every minute of his trip to California. Scratch that, every second of it. I'll get to Jett's odds of going 11-0 because 22-0 is not happening. I'll just throw that out right now. But it's the off-bike things that he crushed even more than the competition. Let's start with the apology. Nailed it. Whether you like him or not, nailed it. Whether you think it was rehearsed or not, nailed it. And he put that issue to rest. After Moto 1, the podium interview was careful. He won pretty easy, but knew the day wasn't over, so he kept it cool, stayed focused. Then after Moto 2, let the emotion pour out. Real tears poured out. Then he got it back together on the podium and made his statement that he won't be affected by the outside noise. It doesn't matter what side of this thing you are on, the distractions are real. And he bounced back like a true legend with a legend all over his ass for 30 minutes, and he won one of the more difficult races of his life. That was where the tears came from. That is why he was so emotional, and that was how you move on from the personal issues he's facing off the bike. But if you're paying attention online, I don't think the issues are over, so he'll have to do it again, and it won't get easier on the track either. Eli Tomac is back. The beast is alive. And after watching Eli Moto 2, I'm tired. I need to see a chiropractor, and I honestly needed a nap after that moto, as that dude was so gnarly, and I am fired up for Hangtown, which is one of Eli's best tracks. He won his very first pro national ever at Hangtown. He beat Ryan Dungey by over a minute at Hangtown, and if you look back to the history books, Jett has always been his goofiest at Hangtown. So let's go. We did finally get a piece of what we all wanted in this Battle of the Titans, and I do think we're gonna get a bunch more of it this summer. But in reality, Eli is the underdog here. Jett was 95% perfect and in control. Eli was pure send and made probably 100 mistakes in the second moto alone. And when it comes to starts, well, Jett has Eli covered, and the beast will have to go through the alien to win these things. I still can't believe we're getting this. Eli has no obligation to keep racing, but he has graced us with his presence. My fandom of him has grown leaps and bounds, and based on what he's clearly saying publicly and firmly, he ain't going anywhere for a while. Lucky us. Lucky for the fans at Hangtown, and lucky me for having so much support for this show. The numbers prove we're doing something special here, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
Main event motomerch.com. Main event motomerch.com. Main event motomerch.com.